What up, doe? Welcome to the D. From the concrete of Gratiot to the hustle of 7 Mile. From the parties at Hart Plaza to the late nights on Jefferson. This is Detroit Tales and Stories, where the Motor City's realest stories come alive. We're taking you back to when the streets had their own rules, when your whip spoke louder than words, and when survival meant everything. The mid-'80s to the 2000s, when Detroit was raw, uncut, and unforgettable. These are the stories they don't tell you about, straight from the heart of the D. Detroit Tales and Stories. Real stories, real Detroit, real talk. 5 Diamonds, Part 2. The night everything changed. Detroit Chronicles, summer, 1989. Sunday evening around 8:30, the 5 women were back at Sherri's apartment getting ready for round 2. The night before at Ray O'Shea's Cabaret had been everything they expected. Good music, fine men, and the kind of networking that kept Detroit's underground economy flowing. But tonight was different. Tonight they were going to see those fine Chicago boys in their element. "Y'all sure we want to do this?" Val asked for the 3rd time, applying another coat of mascara. "Going to see some niggas strip?" "Girl, when's the last time we had some real entertainment?" Sherri replied, adjusting her gold Cartier glasses. For tonight, she'd chosen a black silk dress that hugged every curve while still maintaining the class she was known for. Besides, them boys got style. This ain't gonna be some cheap-ass strip show. Keisha laughed from the couch where she was lacing up her heels. "Val, you the one always complaining about these Detroit niggas not putting in effort. At least these Chicago boys got jobs." "Dancing naked ain't exactly what I meant," Val muttered, but she was already committed. Her emerald green outfit looked stunning against her skin, and deep down she was curious about what the night would bring. Mo emerged from the bathroom in a bright red ensemble that complemented her personality perfectly. "Y'all ready to see what all that confidence was about? 'Cause I got a feeling them dudes wasn't just talking." Tanya, at 19, was the most excited of all. "I ain't never been to no male strip club. Tony would lose his damn mind if he knew." "What Tony don't know won't hurt him," Sherri said, grabbing her purse with Little Bit safely tucked inside. "We taking my car tonight, all of us together." By 9 p.m., Sherri's Mercedes was pulling up to Watts Club Mozambique. The building looked rough around the edges from the outside, weathered brick and minimal signage, but the parking lot told a different story. Luxury cars, customized rides, and enough chrome to blind someone filled every space. "Damn, look at all these rides," Mo observed. These women came to spend some money tonight. Inside, Mozambique was a completely different world from the VFW Hall Cabaret. Red velvet covered the walls, mirrors reflected the intimate lighting, and small round tables surrounded a runway-style stage. The club's DJ was pumping Luther Vandross's "Never Too Much" through speakers that made the bass vibrate through the floor. The atmosphere was charged with sexual energy and expensive perfume. Women in designer clothes and real jewelry filled every table. This wasn't some dive bar. This was upscale adult entertainment for women with money to spend. "Now this is what I'm talking about," Mo said as they were led to a VIP booth near the stage. "Sometimes a sister needs to be entertained properly." Marcus appeared at their table within minutes, looking even more attractive in the intimate lighting. He wore leather pants and an unbuttoned silk shirt, his green eyes catching the stage lights. "Detroit's finest made it," he said with that same smooth smile from the night before. "Y'all ready for a real show?" "We ready for whatever y'all got," Sherri said, her confidence returning now that she could see the setup was professional. The show started at 9:30 sharp, and it was immediately clear these weren't amateur hour performers. Each of the 5 Chicago men took the stage with choreographed routines that mixed athleticism, sensuality, and genuine entertainment. The crowd of women went wild, stuffing dollar bills into whatever piece of clothing remained, screaming and laughing with the kind of freedom that came from being in a space designed for their pleasure. When Damon took the stage, his eyes found Sherri's table and stayed there. His routine was a perfect blend of strength and grace, and when his song ended, he walked straight to their VIP section. "You the one I've been thinking about all day," he said to Sherri, his voice low and intimate over the music. "You mind if I sit?" Up close, Damon was even more impressive than she remembered. His skin was flawless, his body clearly maintained through serious dedication, and his presence was magnetic. Sherri, who was used to being the one in control, found herself responding to his energy. "I don't mind," she said, scooting over to make room. Meanwhile, Carlos had approached Keisha after his performance, his waves catching the light as he leaned close to whisper in her ear. Whatever he said made her laugh and blush, something her friends rarely saw. The night progressed with drinks flowing and boundaries blurring. The professional entertainment had shifted into personal attention, and by midnight, both Sherri and Keisha had agreed to after parties at the performers' hotel. "Y'all sure about this?" Val asked, always the mother hen despite her own romantic troubles. "Girl, when's the last time you saw me with a man who looked this good?" Sherri said. "Sometimes you got to live a little." "We'll be fine," Keisha added. "They got a suite at the Renaissance Center. We can handle ourselves." Mo, Tanya, and Val decided to head home. They'd take Sherri's Mercedes while Sherri and Keisha would catch rides with their new friends, but not before they all grabbed some food. "Y'all hungry?" Sherri asked as they stood in the club's parking lot. "I'm starving, and I know y'all ain't eating nothing but them little club snacks." "Where are we gonna go this late?" Tanya asked, checking the time on her Cartier watch. 12:47 a.m. El George's on 7 Mile stay open all night, Mo suggested. And it's right on the way back east side. Around 1:15 a.m., El George's Coney Island was exactly what Detroit needed on a Sunday night, turning into Monday morning. Fluorescent lighting, red vinyl booths, and the smell of chili dogs and fresh coffee. The 24-hour Coney was packed with the usual after-hours crowd. Shift workers heading home, couples ending their weekend, and groups like theirs still dressed in their Sunday night finest. The 5 women slid into a large booth near the window, their designer clothes and jewelry making them stand out under the harsh lighting. Other patrons glanced their way, recognizing the look of women who had money to spend and places to be. "What y'all want?" the waitress asked, a tired-looking sister in her 40s who's seen every type of late-night customer Detroit had to offer. 5 loose burgers with everything," Sherri said, taking charge as usual. "Extra chili on mine and coffee all around." "Y'all coming from the clubs?" the waitress asked with a knowing smile. "Something like that," Mo said, adjusting her gold chains. As they waited for their food, the conversation turned to the Chicago boys and the night ahead. Under the bright lights of the Coney Island, reality felt different than it had in the dark intimacy of Watts Club Mozambique. But the attraction was still there, the possibilities still electric. "Y'all sure about going to their hotel?" Val asked again, always the cautious one. "Girl, when's the last time you seen me with a man who looked that good?" Sherri said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "Sometimes you got to live a little." The loose burgers arrived, Detroit's signature late-night meal of ground beef with chili, onions and mustard on a soft bun. Simple food that hit different at 1 a.m. after a night of drinking and excitement. These boys better be worth missing work tomorrow, Keisha laughed, taking a bite of her burger. 20 minutes later, they were saying their goodbyes in the parking lot. Mo, Tanya, and Val climbed into Sherri's Mercedes, while Sherri and Keisha walked toward Damon's BMW and Carlos's Mercedes. "Y'all call us tomorrow," Mo said through the car window. "We will," Sherri promised, though none of them knew how much everything was about to change. Early Monday morning, almost 2:30 a.m., the suite at the Renaissance Center Hotel was impressive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Detroit River, expensive furniture, and a full bar. Damon and Carlos shared the space, and it was clear they were doing well financially. Too well for just weekend strip shows. "Y'all want something to drink?" Carlos asked, moving to the bar with practiced ease. "Hennessy, if you got it," Sherri said, settling into the plush couch while admiring the view of Detroit's skyline reflected in the river. The conversation flowed easily at first. Damon was intelligent, well-traveled, and charming in a way that went beyond physical attraction. He told stories about performing in different cities, his plans to eventually open his own entertainment business, and his appreciation for strong women who knew what they wanted. Carlos was more playful, making Keisha laugh with impressions and stories about crazy audiences they'd encountered in other cities. But as the night wore on and more drinks were consumed, the energy in the room shifted. What started as flirtation became more intense, more possessive. "You different from most women I meet," Damon said, his hand resting on Sherri's thigh. "Most of them just want to throw money and grab on a brother. You got class." "I can afford class," Sherri replied, her eyes meeting his challenge. In the other room, things between Keisha and Carlos had progressed quickly, but then she heard voices getting heated. "What you mean you ain't got none?" Carlos's voice carried through the thin hotel walls. "I don't mess around without protection," Keisha said firmly. "You got some or not?" "Come on, baby. We both clean. I can tell just by looking at you." "Nigga, that ain't how it work. No glove, no love." "You acting like I'm some street nigga. I'm a professional entertainer. I don't care if you're Michael Jackson. Either you got some rubbers or this night is over." The argument continued for several minutes, Carlos getting more aggressive about it, until finally, Keisha's voice got sharper. "Look, I said what I said. You gonna respect that or I'm leaving?" Things got quiet after that, and Sherri figured they'd worked it out. Her friend's laughter had been replaced by softer sounds, and the door had been closed for the past hour. At 3:15 a.m., things took a dark turn. Sherri was in Damon's bedroom when she heard raised voices from the living room, then Keisha screaming, then a sound she recognized immediately, a gunshot. "What the fuck?" Damon jumped up, pulling on his pants. Sherri grabbed her purse, her hand automatically finding little bit inside. Growing up in Detroit had taught her to always be ready for anything. In the living room, they found Carlos on the floor, blood pooling beneath his head. Keisha was in the corner, her dress torn, tears streaming down her face. He wouldn't stop," she sobbed. "I said no, but he wouldn't stop. I hit him with the bottle and he fell and..." The Hennessy bottle lay shattered on the expensive carpet, pieces of glass mixed with blood and alcohol. Sherri's mind went into survival mode immediately. They couldn't call the police. Too many questions about who they were, where they'd been, what they did for money. Both women had records. Both had reasons to avoid law enforcement attention. "We got to go," she said quietly. "Right now." Damon was in shock, staring at his roommate's body. Carlos, man, we got shows booked. We got... Your boy's dead, Sherri said bluntly, and we can't be here when someone finds him. She helped Keisha gather her things while Damon stood frozen. They couldn't take the elevator. Too many cameras, too much chance of being seen. The stairwell would have to do. 23 flights down, Sherri muttered, in heels. They made it to the parking garage without being seen. Damon's BMW was there, but he was in no condition to drive. Sherri took the keys. I don't know y'all like that, Damon said, some of his shock wearing off. How I know y'all ain't gonna? Because we all in this together now, Sherri said. You want to explain to Detroit police what you was doing with 2 women from the east side? You want them looking into your finances, your business, your whole situation. He got in the car. Back at Sherri's place, around 4:30 a.m., they tried to piece together a plan. Keisha had cleaned up and changed clothes, but the trauma was still written all over her face. Damon sat on the couch, running his hands through his hair repeatedly. They gonna find him in the morning when housekeeping comes, he said. Hotel got cameras everywhere. Y'all was seen going in, but not coming out, Sherri pointed out. Far as anyone knows, we still up there. So what we supposed to do? Hide forever? Sherri was already thinking ahead. You got somewhere you can go? Chicago. Somewhere far from Detroit? Yeah, but... Then go. Tonight. Before the sun comes up. She turned to Keisha. You too. Visit your aunt in Atlanta like you've been talking about. Take a vacation. What about you? I got business to handle here, but I can lay low for a while. Sherri was already mentally calculating how to shut down her operation temporarily, how to move money around, how to become invisible while remaining in plain sight. By 5 a.m., Damon was on I-75 heading south. By 6 a.m., Keisha was at Detroit Metro Airport, buying a one-way ticket to Atlanta with cash. By 7 a.m., Sherri was alone in her apartment, watching the sunrise through her bedroom window and realizing that everything had changed. That's another chapter from the Tales and Stories, fam. If these stories take you back to the D you remember or help you understand the D you never knew, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Drop a comment and tell us your Detroit story. What block you claimed, what party store you remember, what ride you were pushing. Follow us on the gram at Detroit Tales and Stories for behind-the-scenes content and rare photos from the era. Until next time, keep the D alive in your heart. Peace.